Hey guys, so I've had a pretty common question here in the last little while talking about black diesel. Realize I haven't done any black diesel videos in a really long time. The reason I haven't done any black diesel videos is I haven't needed to make any. So I made 1,500 liters last year and I haven't burnt all of it yet. So it's kind of hard to do videos when you're not making more of it. But something I wanted to talk about a little bit was there's lots of guys asking about it and maybe doing it or thinking about doing it. And I just like to be clear on doing it is you have to make sure that you understand the risk. I have lots of people asking about common rails and stuff like that. Now, I personally have run it in common rails and have not had any problems. Now, that being said, if something goes wrong, for me, it's not the biggest deal in the world because I can fix it. But I like to forewarn everybody that the black diesel is definitely going to be dirtier than diesel fuel. Doesn't matter how you clean it through a centrifuge, it goes through the filters and all that type of stuff. There is small particles in the fuel that you cannot get out. Inherently just the way it is. Now, through a common rail system that's running considerably higher pressures than the old mechanical stuff that primarily you would run it in, it is going to be harder on the injection system. It is just is what it is. So you have to be aware that if you're going to be running it, you need to be putting money aside. You're probably at some point going to have a problem. Now, something else that I do recommend is adding filtration to the system of the vehicle. Is a big one. Get as tight as filter as you can on there, and it has to be cleaned prior. And with the common rails, you don't want to run near as heavy of a mixture. I personally don't recommend for the average person to be doing, definitely not any more than 50-50. But even less than that in my opinion for the most part. Now, something that I do recommend, and I haven't really got talking into about this too much, is the maintenance side of it. I do run water meth while I run black diesel. I found that it helps keep the combustion chamber the bowl in the piston, which is your combustion chamber, and your injector nozzle and all that stuff cleaner. Now, does it keep it clean? Not usually, no. It doesn't keep it perfectly clean. If you're injecting lots of it, it does, but for the most part, it doesn't keep it perfectly clean. But you do need to take out the injectors and service them. You will have to do this. Now, I know lots of guys are me in the comments. I've done it. I've ran it 5 million miles and I've never cleaned them and everything's perfect. Okay, I've driven a lot of miles, talking miles, with black diesel, biodiesel. And that is something that I have found is that you do, when you're doing black diesel, is you do need to service the injectors. You're gonna need to take them apart, clean them, repop test them, clean the nozzles, because you will get buildup. Just inherently it is what it is. But being that you are running a fuel that's potentially 50% of the cost, 40% of the cost, 30% of the cost, it is just what you have to do. Now with the common rail stuff, it is a lot more work to pull the injectors out and have them cleaned because you can't take them apart and clean them usually yourself. And if you do, probably is not gonna be good. So for the most part, I don't recommend guys to be running it in a common rail. And definitely, if you have a DPF, no, don't even think about it. Bad idea. Trust me, I screwed around with it. It was a bad idea. Don't do it. So if that's the case, you know, like if you're running in common rail, myself personally, what I would do if you really want to cut down on the cost of fuel, if you have the ability to get, is to convert vegetable oil into biodiesel. You can do that. There again, with doing that, it inherently, there is a lot. You have to convert vegetable oil into biodiesel. And can you run just regular vegetable oil in it? Yes, can. Lots of guys do it. But there again, you can have problems. And all of it, you can have problems. It doesn't even matter. Even with diesel fuel, you can have problems. But just so you guys are forewarned, I have lots of people asking about common rail stuff, is yes, you can run it, but be aware that you can and or will have problems at some point in its life, whether it be the nozzles are plugged up or there's just too much deposit or whatever it may be. Now, if you're only running a little bit, like I have lots of guys that say, oh, well, you know, I just want to run, you know, the oil that I make myself. So, you know, they have, let's say, 100, 150 liters a year kind of idea. Well, that's not a huge deal. As long as you clean it, just dump in, you know, 2-3 gallons into your fuel tank at a time. And as long as you've cleaned it, you know, I don't think you'll have any problems. Now, that being said, if your truck is running a DPF, don't do that. You just, if it's got a DPF in it, run diesel fuel and run diesel fuel only, because otherwise you will have problems. Just, it is what it is. It's, you know, the way of the land, I guess. For us old mechanical guys, you definitely can get away with a lot more. Everything is more forgiving. Parts are more forgiving. Parts are cheaper. So if you're running black diesel in a 12 valve, what I always recommend to the guys that I've helped set it up over the years is what you want to do is buy 2 sets of injectors. So you're going to have a set of injectors that you put in there. You pull one set out, you put the other set back in, clean these ones, pop test them, package them properly, and when you need to swap them out again, let's say I probably, depending on how much driving you're doing, probably once a year, you pull them out, clean them, put them back in again. But yes, there's a little bit of screwing around. It's not that much screwing around. Like, you can pull them out. I've re-and-read mine a couple times doing some injector testing for new injectors for my line of injectors. It took me, now okay, granted I've done it a bunch of times, but it took me 45 minutes to re-and-read them. So yes, the first time you pull them out, they might be a bit of a pain because they're gonna be stuck in there. But after you've taken them out a bunch of times, well, I shouldn't say a bunch of times, but after you've taken them out a few times, they won't be near as bad. But if you have 2 sets of injectors, most guys that are running black diesel aren't running a large amount of power. So I have found, so you don't really have, you know, you don't have to have expensive injectors, right? So I just thought I would talk a little bit about that. Hopefully that helps a guy out, anybody that's looking. So there again, to recap, if you have a common rail, make sure that it's super clean, not more than 50-50, and if it has a DPF, do not do it. Do not do it. So hopefully this helps the video out, saves a guy, you know, and doing some service. And we will get into doing some more black diesel stuff. I just don't know exactly when it'll be. I got lots of stuff on the go. Shop's real busy, trying to get trucks finished before winter time, get the yard cleaned up, shop cleaned up, and yeah, just is what it is. So like, subscribe, hit me down in the comments, and remember, it's not rocket science, but if you're gonna be dumb, you better be tough.